For a long time, I thought my purpose was something that I needed to go out and find. A job title, a business perhaps, a set of criterias that I would tick, and then suddenly all of my life would fall into place and feel fulfilled and feel happy and aligned. But what if we've been taught to look in all of the wrong places? This is the conversation we're going to be unpacking today in this week's episode, so let's dive into it. Welcome to Higher Self Mastery, the podcast for women ready to leave behind who they were told to be and remember who they truly are. I'm your host, Dami Schumacher. This is your space to come home to yourself, to honor the inner pull for more truth and more depth, and more meaning as you enter a new chapter of your life. Together, we're reframing midlife crisis into the midlife magic that it actually is, because this is your rebirth. Through soulful conversations and spiritual tools, you'll reconnect to your truth and reclaim your voice and live the life that your soul came here for. So let's begin. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Higher Self Mastery. I'm your host, Dami Schumacher. Thank you so much for joining me. This week's conversation is such an important conversation to have because there are so many women walking around feeling so confused and lost and feeling like they have missed their chance at discovering what their purpose is, or not even knowing where to begin. But what if it's not about a neat set of criteria that you actually tick off, but a much more of a remembering and a returning home? So this episode, what I hope to do is strip back some of these myths around what purpose is and bring it back to what it truly is, so you can feel in your body, in your embodied state, and get those answers and that guidance and that direction from your own inner self as to what your unique purpose is. So, purpose, often related to our careers, our professional line of expertise, but actually it is so much more than that. Purpose is what you are here to do as an individual. And I've been avoiding this episode or talking about this subject on this podcast ever since I started this podcast. Ironically, given that it is the main focus of what I teach and what I coach. But the reason I've been avoiding talking about it directly is because everything that we have spoken about up until now indirectly has been laying the foundations to help you discover your purpose. I didn't want to dive straight into this conversation right out the gate, but it is something that comes up time and time again. And I think in all of the clients that I've ever worked with, and even casual conversations that I have and women that I meet in different circles, this is a conversation that comes up, because even when we have maybe felt like we have had a purpose in our lives, during this phase, during this transitional time in our life, this can feel uprooted, and everything can begin to change again and shift for us. So what once fitted really lovely in like a glove on your hand no longer does fit anymore, right? And so you're once again feeling like you may have felt back in your 20s, but this time with a little bit more urgency or fear, even because you don't have all of your as many years in front of you and the same optimism and carefree way of moving through life as most of us did in our 20s, where life just feels like, oh, it's just so much time and I've got so much time to explore and play and do what I want, you know. Whereas now in our midlife phase, there is a sense of urgency, like, holy moly, I am about halfway. Um, and so it can just feel very different, but it isn't actually any different in terms of rediscovering what lights you up. Now, the word purpose is also known as Dharma in Sanskrit and in Buddhism, and or in Buddhism is it Dhamma without the R, but essentially the same thing. And you may realize that is also my name. And it took me the best part of 40 years to realize what my purpose is and get my head around it as well, and realize that my purpose at this moment in time, and I'll explain that in a moment a little bit more. What I mean by that is, but at this moment in time, my purpose in life is to help other people, women especially, to rediscover their purpose. So it's one of those meta scenarios here. And purpose is something that we each have uniquely to ourselves individually, but then also something that we share collectively as well. So it's not just one thing. And it certainly is not associated to a specific title or label that maybe you might be thinking in your mind or have been taught to believe that's what it actually is. When I achieve, for example, the status as a director in my firm, then I will have achieved my purpose. Or when I have become an entrepreneur who is earning 100K a month, then I have achieved my purpose. Or when I have the husband and the 4 children and the beautiful detached property in the countryside, with X amount of holidays in the year, etc., 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 that is when I will have achieved my purpose. Purpose is not something that is defined or obtained through the material realm. Yes, of course, the material realm and the deeper conscious realm do merge and blend together. Naturally, it does. But it's not defined by what you see here in this 3D realm, in this 3D world. And if that is the way that you are still perceiving and believe what your purpose to be, and that when you have achieved X, when you have achieved Y, and you can go tick, 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 then you will feel this sense of fulfillment and alignment, then I hate to break it to you, but at the same time, I'm glad that you are hearing this. Get rid of that idea from your mind, because that will not bring you any sense of fulfillment or achievement or this sense of I have reached my purpose. It won't come through anything here in this 3D material realm. But that is what most of us were taught. And I don't know where that, honestly, I can't pinpoint it, where that belief system stems from. But certainly I think culturally, societally, it has just been embedded within us that it is a set of criteria. And once you achieve that, where you are exhibiting your area of expertise and your gifts, then you will have achieved your purpose. And it's a real shame, like so many belief systems that we are indoctrinated into that just do not serve us. This has misled so many people, not just women, everybody, into this misguided idea of what to pursue. And I think a lot of people either do pursue it and keep on chasing it and realize that they're just not getting any closer, or they never quite achieve it, or certain individuals will manage to tick off those boxes. And then when they get there, they're like, okay, this is not quite how I thought it was going to feel. This is a bit of an anticlimax. This is disappointing. So it just really sends us off on the wrong tangent, exploring and seeking this sense of peace and fulfillment and a sense of contribution in all the wrong ways. What I believe is purpose is that each and every one of us, each and every one of you, have a unique blueprint. And within your unique blueprint, you have gifts and talents and qualities that when you put your very unique combination of these gifts and talents and qualities together, there is not one other person on this entire planet that can share those gifts and talents in quite the way that you can. And it is as unique as your thumbprint. This belongs solely to you. And your purpose is more about shedding away all those misconceptions, all of those false identities, all of those masks that you have collected along the way through childhood, through society, through your culture, through your family, through your parents, your teachers, your friends. All of that is just the older we get, the more we accumulate all of these layers, unless you're actively doing this work. So when you're doing this work, you're peeling back those layers and trying to get back to what is in the core of who you really are. And that's what your purpose is. Your purpose is to remember, come back to who you really are at the center. If nobody was watching, if nobody was judging, if time was of no consequence, if money was of no consequence, what would you be doing? How would you be doing it? Who would you be sharing your time with? What is it that you do that lights you up and you could do it for hours and hours and just lose yourself in it? What is it that people come to you for and ask you for, to support them, to show them, to guide them? These are just some of the questions that you can begin to inquire and ask of yourself when you start to return back to who you really are. Certainly, there are so many tools out there now as well. I personally have found the human design tool really useful in reinforcing and confirming my suspicions of what my gifts are. And I think also given me the boldness and the courage to own them as well. It's not that I didn't know that I had certain talents and certain gifts. I think there were parts of me that just were shying away from it, playing small. And when I was able to look at my human design chart and see it plainly written out, this is your gift, this is your gift, this is your gift, most of these things did not come as a surprise to me. I'm like, oh, okay, right? And even then, like, to be able to see it on paper, certainly, for me at least, it really was helpful. But then it took a while to really integrate this and really fully embody it and take ownership of it and take responsibility of it as well. And be like, okay, I do want to really fully live in alignment with what my purpose is, because when I know when I do that, life is going to be so sweet. there won't be this resistance. There won't be this feeling of climbing uphill. There won't be this swimming upstream. I'm not saying everything's going to be la-di-da and easy. Of course, there are going to be waves. Of course, your trajectory is up, down, diagonal, left, right, upside down, and all of that in between. That is the nature of life and growth. But as you do it, you know with so much confidence that, yes, this is still so fulfilling. Yes, this brings me so much joy. Yes, this feels right and good in every fiber of my being. I feel, even with the challenges, I still feel this sense of expansiveness. And I feel supported, and I know that I am moving in the right direction, and I can see the impact that I'm having, whatever that is. And yes, for a lot of people, and this is where the confusion and the misunderstanding, I think, probably stemmed from, is that many people, once they discover and begin to take ownership of their gifts and their talents and their purpose, what it is they are here to share with the rest of the world, they will then use those through in their career, through the work that they do, in ways to serve other people as well. But it doesn't have to be. You may do this very privately with the people just immediately around you, your friends and your family. You may do this through more through charity, through volunteering, something that you do on the side of your 9-to-5 job or your day-to-day career. It doesn't have to be the main way that you spend your time, but I think a lot of people do pursue it and integrate it into their career because they don't want to be doing anything else with their time, because that's how fulfilling it can be when you do discover it, or when you begin to discover elements and aspects of it. And that's the other thing. It's not singular. It's not that you are meant to do this and only this. It's so much more blurry and less tangible. It's more about your qualities, perhaps. So I'll share with you mine, right? So that helps to demonstrate and maybe, hopefully, help you to better understand what some of your purpose is here. So for me, I've mentioned this a gazillion times before, and I think it's pretty plain and evident here. One of my gifts and my talents is my voice. It says so in my human design chart. I was selected by my deputy headmaster when I was at secondary school at the age of 13, maybe even 12, but around 13, to represent the school, delivering an oral presentation. I'd never done anything like that before, and in my head I was thinking, why me? And how on earth am I going to do this? But obviously he could see and hear something in my voice. That was the first time it was sort of really brought to my attention. But even through life, I've had people always comment on my voice and say, I can listen to you speak all day, Dami. Don't stop talking. You could say anything you want. Just keep talking. Of course, there's going to be plenty of people out there who do not like the sound of my voice and will immediately tune out because it just like grates on their ears. And that's also fine. But I do have that, and I have had that over the years where people have said to me how my voice just lands and resonates for them, or they really hear what I'm saying, or when I'm speaking and saying something, they really want to listen. Yet I always just thought, oh, that's nice. Thank you for the compliment. And then I never really did anything with it. I never really owned it and took full responsibility of, one, how powerful that is, but also too, to use that in a very clear, mindful, purposeful way to help me to bring together other things that belong in my unique gift set, right? Some of the other things that I know that I am naturally talented at is the ability to make people feel comfortable and at ease. I know that's a little more tricky in this medium here, via the radio waves. Um, but in person, a complete stranger, and I can connect instantaneously with them. And it's a genuine connection if both parties are open, of course. I'm not always walking around like that. But when I'm centered and I'm grounded and I'm good, then yeah, absolutely. It's very, very feasible for me to do. And people who don't even ordinarily talk very much or ordinarily open up very much can find themselves sharing with me, sharing so many deep truths. And they may have only just met me or only met me a few times. So that's another gift of mine. And I'm just giving you some of these examples. I'm also very good at curating and designing spaces specifically for the event or the activity or the group of people or the individual that is going to be using it. And so when you look at all of these individually, I did at one point try to pursue them individually as careers. So I actually did a BA in interior design and I loved it and it felt really good and used to feel really expansive and light me up. But the reality of the industry of sitting there with restricted budgets and briefs and designing the same old mundane stuff for clients who didn't necessarily have the imagination or the scope to really do something unique and exciting. That creativity was squashed. That expression of my gift was completely squashed and it stopped feeling aligned for me. And so I put that to one side thinking, oh, that's really disappointing. I was really hoping to take that career somewhere and move forward with it. But it didn't feel so good in the actual industry. Certainly not my experience. I'm not saying everyone's experience is the same. Of course it's not. But so I stopped pursuing that. And then I took some other angles and made some other choices in terms of my career. And I forever kept on looking for that thing that's going to be the right fit. And every time I switched careers, and believe me, I have switched careers a lot. And I think that's from, again, partly my personality type, but also because my purpose is to help other people find their purpose. I could not do what I'm doing today had I not gone through the challenging journey myself. And the heartache of it and the disappointment of it and the constant hurdles and barriers, one after the other. And every time I would start a new job, I would look at it on paper and it would be like tick box, tick box, tick box, tick box. And I'd be so excited and I'd pour everything of myself into it, really excited that this is the one. This is the one job, career, title that is going to give me all the fulfillment that I'm looking for. And then a little while into it, it'll be like, this isn't it either. It may tick some different boxes that the previous job didn't tick, but it still isn't the full package. And because now I know and I can see this is my purpose to have gone through this journey, one of my other gifts is to guide people, lead people through my own personal experiences. It has to be lived, and I fully have to have embodied these this wisdom and these truths for myself before I share them. And I think that's apparent if you've been listening for some time. That will be apparent in my episodes and what I talk about as well, because there's nearly always some kind of personal story and experience that I bring into it and share with you. But it was heartbreaking going from one career to the next, to the next, to the next. And then eventually I really started questioning, like, come my early 30s, I started to really question what on earth was I doing? Because it was hard. It was really hard. I was still always pretty broke because I was forever starting back as a junior. I never got to an intermediate or senior role anywhere because I would just leave. I just couldn't bring myself to push through in that uncomfortableness, not uncomfortableness in the good sense, but uncomfortableness in the misaligned way, right? So maybe uncomfortable is not the right word there, apologies. But I couldn't bring myself to like push through the misalignment of the careers and the situation. And it would just be like, no, I know on paper it sounds great. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, this is such a wonderful opportunity. Oh my gosh, this is such a great job, Dami. Like, well done. This is going to be so good for you. I just couldn't. I couldn't carry on because there were so many things that were still missing. And in my heart, I knew that no, the full package does exist. I don't know what that is, but it does exist. And in the interim, I can't stay here. I just can't. I couldn't physically bring myself to go through it. And I would just leave everything and start all over again. But by the time I got to my early 30s, I was like, this is really hard. Was I wrong? Was I living in some misguided utopian idealistic world in my head of this idea that there is something, there is a career, there is a way that I can put my gifts and talents to use, that it all just feels perfectly aligned and feels good and feels right. Was I wrong? Maybe that doesn't exist. Maybe I should have stuck with that job or even the job before and put up with all the bits that didn't feel good and just learnt to deal with it or just learnt to ignore it, brush it over. And especially because most people don't do what I did. And so everyone around me, all my friends, other people my age, were well into their careers, in good roles, earning good money and feeling secure and doing the whole sort of 2.4 children route, which is not something that I ever wanted for myself, but it just felt an enticing alternative option to what I had chosen, because what I was doing was really difficult and I really was questioning my decisions and whether I just got it all wrong. Thank goodness I did keep trying new things. Thank goodness that I didn't give up, because as I said, I wouldn't have had the experiences and I wouldn't have got to the place that I have got to now and have been able to look back and go, oh my goodness, none of it was for nothing. It's all been useful. I can bring something from this job and this career and that phase of my life and that experience and that travel and that relationship and that networking and just all of it and bring it all together. And look what it shows me. Look at what I'm good at. Look what the common threads are, which are the bits that really lit me up. And so, if anything, this midlife era, this 40s, late 30s, early 50s, I mean, and I say that very, very broadly, right? If you're out of that age range, it doesn't mean this doesn't apply to you. But this sort of midlife era that we're in, it's such an exciting time to rediscover your purpose, because no, you're not running out of time. Yes, you're about halfway, but you've also got all this experience to look back on as well. Even if you have done just the one job for the past 25 years, you still have all of that experience to look back on and say, this, to this day, I've done this one job, but this element or this aspect of my job is something that has always lit me up. I really like being in people relationships and that customer facing role where I'm dealing with people and helping them and serving them. However, I really don't like doing it on the phone. I really don't like doing it by email. I hate sitting down and answering emails. What I really love is having those face-to-face conversations when I'm there in front of that person. That's when there's real fire in my belly. That's when things really move forward and I really make a lot of progress or success. It could be that you are really enjoying a technical skill that is associated to your job, or a skill that you do part-time maybe, or in one of the hobbies that you do, or one of the voluntary roles that you have. It could be anything, but you've got all of this experience to look back on and say, I love that and I've always loved that. And I see the common thread, how I always end up doing this. This is the common thread from all of those different experiences and jobs, or this is what I always reach to. This is what I always lean towards. Make a note of it. These are the things that I'm really good at, but oh my gosh, they bore the hell out of me. And I really, they just suck me out of my energy, and I just feel like, ugh, completely wiped out when I do it. Those are the things that you want to avoid. Just because you've become good at it, we can all become good at different skills. Once we practice them enough and learn them enough, it doesn't mean it's the right thing for you. So you may find yourself with a whole bunch of skill sets that you're actually very, very good at, but you've acquired and learned because that's what you were taught. Maybe it was passed down from your parents. Maybe that was part of your first job and you really wanted to do really well in that job. So you poured everything of yourself into it and became very good at something. But my goodness, you've always hated it, that element of that job or that element of that role. So there's so many clues that you now have once you've hit your midlife phase. So much evidence that exists, and all you have to do is to sit down and analyze through it, work through it, take a little bit of time to see what really jumps out and what really makes you go, ugh, I want to put that down. Because our collective purpose, I mentioned this collective purpose. Our collective purpose is one of our collective purposes is this returning home to ourselves. Our collective purpose is about remembering who we really are, because when we do that and we can fully embody and share our gifts and our talents, that's when we shine. That's when we become magnetic. That's when we then, without words, without saying, without knowing, help others to do the same. Indirectly give them permission to do the same. When you see somebody who is so in their purpose, so aligned with what they do, you cannot help but be drawn to them and be in awe of them and be inspired by them and go, I want that for me. What are they doing? And if you ask them or look deeper into what it is they're doing, they're just being themselves. They're doing what comes natural to them. They're doing what they are naturally gifted at and talented at. And the way to embody that feeling and experience that for yourself is to see what you are naturally gifted and talented at, because you are. And I do not want anyone listening to this to be sat there going, oh, but I don't have any gifts and I don't have any talents. BS. Absolute BS. And if that has gone through your mind as you've been listening to this, I am so sorry that you feel that way and for what may have come before that has led you to believe this, but it is not true. You absolutely have beautiful gifts and talents. And your unique combination, nobody else has. And our job is to rediscover what our unique combination of gifts and talents are, and then to go out there and share it into the world. And that is the other collective purpose that we have, is to remember and refine this for ourselves, take ownership of it, be brave to own it, and then to go out there and share it. Not to keep it for yourself, but to share it. Again, that might be en masse in front of thousands of people, or it could just be in a small group, your local community, your family. But sharing is very, very much part of it. And to be honest, if you're being truthful with yourself, you will want to. You want to express it. The natural energy of your gifts and your talents, when you are completely aligned and you take that responsibility, is to allow it to flow out of you, to express itself. Whether that's speaking like I do, or whether that's teaching, or whether that's art, or whether that's creating spaces, or whether that's designing things, being really good technically at certain things, and you love that, and you want to be able to help people do that, because not everyone has those skills, right? And that's what's really important. We take it for granted what we can do so easily ourselves. And so it's so easy to look at our gifts and our talents and go, oh, yeah, but so what? What's the big deal about that? It is a big deal, because Fiona over there probably can't do what you're doing, and you can't do what she's doing. And Sammy over there, vice versa, can't do what you're doing, can't do what Fiona's doing. And you likewise can't do what she can do. Right? And so it's so easy to make small of what our own gifts and our talents are. So pay attention to what other people comment on and compliment you on, and what do they come to you for? Because that's a big sign as well. And don't dismiss it. Take the compliment and make note of it, especially when it's not just once or twice. What do people say you're really good at? What do people really enjoy about you? Could be a personality trait. You're really good at listening. You always make me feel safe. You always know the right thing to say. You always make me laugh. You always make me laugh. Right? These things may seem small to us because we do it so easily, so naturally. But to somebody else, it's a real gift. And it's a real talent. And that's our collective purpose there, to discover what our individual gifts and talents are. Package it in a way that feels good for you in this moment in time, and go out there and share it. And that's the last thing I want to say right now on purpose. Purpose is such a big topic. And that was another reason I was reluctant to do it as an episode as well. It's just like, how can I possibly fit all of this into an episode? And so the simple answer is I'm just not going to try. This is more like an introduction to it, if you like. But how we express our purpose is allowed to change, because you're changing all the time. And as you grow and as you acquire new skills, as you move through different lessons in your life and grow and evolve, different expressions of your purpose will feel more aligned and be a good fit for you. So what you may have done 5 years ago, and that might have felt so perfectly aligned. It's not that, and maybe that doesn't feel right anymore. It's not because you got it wrong. It's not because you were misguided. Maybe you did discover your purpose, and maybe you have been living in your purpose fully. But what you may have failed to do is allow how you are expressing it to evolve and grow and change as well. So allow yourself the permission. That I think is a big one for a lot of women, is to give yourself the permission to develop something, grow something, build something, nurture it, create it. But then if you feel like, that was beautiful and that was good and it served its purpose, but now I want to move direction. Now I want to move direction or add a twist here or just tweak this. Do it. Don't wait for permission from anyone else. This is your life. Do it how it feels right to you, for you. There's so much unconditioning to do to rediscover what our purpose is. It's about, like I said, shedding away all that we've learned about ourselves from the external world. That might sound contradictory because I'm saying to you, on the one hand, listen to what people are saying when they compliment you, where people tell you what you're good at and what they enjoy about you. But then at the same time, you want to also block out what everyone else is saying, and they've ultimately come into yourself and find for yourself what really, really feels expansive and good and alive. What makes that fire in your belly come alive? What makes your heart feel like it's just getting so big and so expansive, and your shoulders dropping? You're just like, oh yeah, I could do this all day, every day. And even though it's challenging, I could do this all day, every day. Service is a big part of purpose. And that's another thing that I will say as I finish this up. It's an innate part of our human existence to leave our mark, to influence, to have an impact on the world and on other people. It's so important to each and every one of us. It's part of our biology. And so when you do discover what makes you come alive, try and find a way that it can help other people, however big or small. It doesn't have to be massive. Like I said, it could be just be on a family level or a community level. Your purpose might be to be the best mum and wife or partner and create that home space where everybody can come back to and feel safe and loved and comfortable. Because that's where your gifts and your talents are. That might be right for you in this phase of your life. That's where you really come alive, and you can do it day in, day out, and pour yourself into it tirelessly. And that's a clue there, the tirelessness. Even though you physically might get tired, the drive and the motivation just doesn't dissipate. You just keep going, you keep going. There are some clues there for you. I'm going to wrap this up. And maybe I will do a part 2 of this at some point. I think I will. I think it would be good for us, where we can then take a deeper dive into some more specifics. So you can start to do some of this investigation work for yourself. This today was more about introducing it and just shifting your perspective and your awareness around this word purpose, because it can feel so heavy. For me, it's a joy. It is my purpose to help other people find their purpose. So the word feels so expansive in my soul for me. but it wasn't always like that once upon a time ago. It weighed very heavy on me, and I know it still does for so many people out there. So I hope this has shed a little bit of light for you. And remember, your purpose is not asking you to be somebody else. It's asking you to come home to who you already are, who you really are, who you've always been. And it's not about knowing the whole path and where you're going to end up. It's not a goal or something that you necessarily have to have mapped out. All that matters is that you do not abandon yourself in the areas of your life that light you up. If you do that, you'll be on track. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this episode. As always, please do leave a comment, a like, and subscribe so you can be informed when every episode is dropped. And just a quick little note, some of you may have noticed I've started a new bonus series as well, which is going to be dropping every Sunday, and it is called Cosmic Download. So it's still available under the Higher Self Mastery podcast umbrella, so it's easy for you to find. Do go check it out and let me know what you think of that as well. Until next week, take care. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Higher Self Mastery. If something landed, moved you, or sparked a shift, I'd love to hear from you. Be sure to follow, subscribe, and share this episode with a woman in your life that is also ready to rise. And if you found value in today's conversation, please take a moment to rate and review this podcast, especially in these early days. It really helps others to find this work too. If you're craving deeper support and sisterhood, join my mailing list using the link below, where you'll be the first to receive free meditations, learn about up-and-coming retreats, and other ways that we can work together. Until next time, honor your truth and trust in the timing of your becoming.